I'd like to welcome everybody here today to a Defense Committee, Minister, Department officials, members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you very much for attending today to discuss supplementary estimates Bravo. I know most of us have done this a few times now, so I will spend a little time talking about the process so we can get right to the discussion. Minister, I'm happy to give you some time to give your opening remarks, and then we'll get into questionings. Floor is yours, sir.
Great, thank you. Just going to get set up here with the earpiece. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. First of all, I just want to start with thanking all of you for the work that you do, the advice that you provide, the experts that you talk to. It really has helped inform not only my opinion, but more importantly, our defense policy as well. So thank you very much for the tremendous effort that you put into your work. So thank you again for the invitation to discuss the Supplementary Estimates B for the Department of National Defence. And I'm accompanied here today by my Deputy Minister, Deputy Minister Thomas, Acting Vice Chief of Defence Staff, Lieutenant General Perron, and other members of the Defence team, and also Greta Bossemeyer, my Chief of the Communications Security Establishment, commonly known as CSE. So, Mr. Chair, I'm here today to address the additional funding required to support the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces and CSE. Supporting our service members requires investments in the right equipment and infrastructure, as well as investing in their well-being, all the while ensuring they are fairly compensated. Now, we are doing all this and more through our defense policy, as you know, which is called Strong, Secure, and Engage, or short, we call it just SSE, which I released recently in June. Now, SSE outlines a new vision for defense, a vision that puts our people first, a vision that ensures Canada is strong at home, secure in North America, and engaged in the world. It is a 20-year commitment that makes much-needed investments in the Canadian Armed Forces and its valued personnel. All soldiers, sailors, and aviators trust us to make important decisions about resources, and as do all Canadians. Now, I take this trust extremely seriously. The requirements to deliver on these investments can shift over time. Some projects move more quickly, while others can experience unexpected delays. The funding requested in these estimates are for existing government commitments, many of which are also captured in the new defense policy. We have moved funds to where they were needed, allowing us to begin implementation on several SSE-related initiatives. We're already managing $565 million of the $615 million of new cash identified in CSE for fiscal year 2017-2018. Since I released the policy 5 months ago, we have made significant progress on our commitments, and have taken decisive action to ensure we remain on schedule. To date, we have rolled out a joint suicide prevention strategy with Veterans Affairs, a new Peace Support Training Center in Kingston, and a new cyber operator occupation. We have also received confirmation from both the Canada Revenue Agency and Revenue Quebec that the Canadian Armed Forces members, up to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, deployed on named international operations will receive tax exemption compensation backdated to January 1st, 2017. Now, we are proud of these achievements to date. Canadians can expect to see more projects coming to fruition in the weeks, months, and years ahead. Now, Mr. Chair, through the Supplementary Estimates B, DND is seeking approximately $1.1 billion in additional funds to cover expected costs for the current fiscal year. These funds are intended for items that were not yet finalized when Treasury Board tabled the main estimates, and they were examined by the Committee of the Whole last May. Now, you will recall that DND was allocated funding of $18.7 billion for the current fiscal year. These Supplementary Estimates B include a Treasury Board approved pay increase for Canadian Armed Forces members, funding for key procurement projects and programs, and adjustments to current year funding for 20 significant capital projects. The Canadian Armed Forces pay increases underlines the importance of this process because as Defence Minister, I want to ensure that our women and men in uniform are appropriately paid for the task we ask them to carry out. This request includes funding for a cumulative pay increase of 6.34%, as well as an increase of 5.1% to some environmental and special allowances for fiscal years 2014 through to 2018. Members began receiving their new rates along with the lump sum back payment as of June 30th of this year. In total, DND is requesting $333.1 million for the pay increases, plus $66.6 million in statutory funding for the employee benefits plan, for a total of $399.7 million. The $335.6 million in funding for 20 capital projects will ensure that approved funds are being used now so that the projects continue to move forward. This is a net request for 10 projects for which funding allocated in 2017-18 will not be entirely spent. As a result, it will be transferred to 10 projects that require additional funding this year. This will cover expected costs for the remainder of the fiscal year. We have a new cash management approach approved by the Treasury Board Secretariat, which offers more flexibility, allowing us to use surpluses in one project to fund demands in another project. Due to the timing needed for Treasury Board approvals, National Defence will be seeking approximately $443 million in funding for initiatives when Supplementary Estimate C are presented to Parliament later this fiscal year. We will only request these funds through the estimates process once we are confident we know exactly what we need. I am proud to report that this new funding process helped the department reduce lapses from $2 billion in 2014-15 to less than $850 million in 2016-17. More importantly, Mr. Chair, it is the first time since 2008/09 that DND has not let funding expire. DND is also asking for an additional $332.4 million of funds for additional capital projects. For the Royal Canadian Air Force, we are seeking an additional $161.6 million to advance the fixed-wing search and rescue aircraft replacement project. This is for the 16 new Airbus aircraft that will take over search and rescue duties from our Buffalo and Hercules legacy aircraft. This will allow the Canadian Armed Forces to continue delivering the search and rescue program with new and better resources. For the Canadian Army, we are requesting an additional $57.1 million to upgrade the 141 light armored vehicles, and these funds are needed earlier than we predicted because some of the items will be delivered ahead of schedule, which is good news. With this project, the Army will maintain troop mobility, which is a key to success on operations. For the Royal Canadian Navy, we will be requesting an additional $54.4 million for a Canadian Surface Combatant project. It will get funds in place for the current project forecast, for definition phase activities, and for the remainder of the fiscal year. The Canadian Surface Combatant will replace the capabilities provided by the Iroquois-class destroyers and the Halifax-class frigates. It will also be able to conduct a broad range of tasks in various scenarios. Also included for the Navy is an additional funding request of $27.3 million for the Point Defense Missile System upgrade project to upgrade the existing evolved Sea Sparrow missile system on the Halifax-class ship. For our Canadian Special Forces Operations Forces Command, we are seeking an additional $15.8 million for a special IT project that improves the command's ability to handle intelligence and data more quickly and more accurately. And Mr. Chair, our Special Operations Task Force are the ones we call on to mitigate against chemical, biological, radiological threats. They also provide various key capabilities for alleviating nuclear and explosive threats. To this end, DND is seeking an additional $14.5 million to procure specialized equipment. There are some lower cost items in our supplementary B estimates as well. For instance, DND is requesting an additional $1.7 million in capital funding to complete the HR system upgrade for our military personnel Administration project. The upgrade will only be released when all pay-related scenarios have been fully and successfully tested. Concerning revenues and assets, we will seek to reinvest $1.2 million in royalties from intellectual property. This includes licenses awarded for the use of Crown-owned intellectual property such as software, defensive equipment, and protective gear. Real property disposals are another way that the DND is supporting the government's commitment to improve military infrastructure by disposing of underused or obsolete assets. DND is requesting to reinvest approximately $780,000 from the sale of 3 properties in Norfolk, Virginia, CFB Borden, and Westmont, Quebec. This is only part of the total revenue from the sale of that property. The balance, $2.7 million, will come in Supplementary Estimate C. The entire amount will be reinvested in base and wing real property to make it more modern, energy efficient, and affordable, and to better meet the infrastructure needs of the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, DND is the largest infrastructure owner in the federal government. It is critical that we use funds wisely. Our investments will continue to focus on infrastructure that meets the Canadian Armed Forces operational needs. And at the same time, we will continue to dispose of underused or obsolete property to help us reduce operating costs and liabilities, as well as greenhouse gas emissions. For the Communication Security Establishment, Canada's Centre of Excellence for Cyber Operations, we are requesting approximately $12.3 million. This amount will help maintain the security of our IT systems while ensuring that vital information Canadians entrust to the government is protected. DND will also receive $2.5 million in transfers from various government departments in these estimates, and we will transfer $18.9 million to other departments. Mr. Chair, all of the items outlined in the supplementary estimates process today directly support our whole-of-government approach and address the priorities of both the Government of Canada and the Canadian Armed Forces. It also demonstrates our clear commitment to Canadians and to the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces who support us every single day. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll take your questions.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just a reminder to the committee, we'll have the Minister for about an hour, which will give us enough time to get through our established speaking order, at which time I'll suspend, let the Minister depart, and we'll have the remaining officials for about 45 minutes. Having said that, the first question will go to Mark Gerritsen. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for coming today. As you know, I'm from a riding that has a long military tradition, Kingston and the Islands. We take great pride in the fact that we have the historic Fort Henry, as well as a world-class military base, and of course RMC, the Royal Military College. You know, one of the remarkable things that I find about our base and the personnel that work on the base in particular are the men and women that work there and their dedication, not just their dedication to the military and their profession, but their dedication to community building. The men and women who are in uniform in my riding are also very active members of the community. They get involved in coaching sporting teams. They're involved in charitable organizations. They're really embedded into our communities. You know, one of the remarkable things that I found when our committee traveled abroad to visit some of our troops in Latvia and Ukraine was just the incredible amount of professionalism that was on display, and the way that that commanded the attention of our colleagues and our the other nations, and how they were receiving Canadians in particular. So I was very happy to see in the Defense Policy Review real solid dedication towards supporting men and women in uniform, being the number one and the main focus. I'm wondering if you can provide some update in terms of the supplementary estimates and how you are investing in forces, and most importantly, our men and women in uniform.
No, thank you very much for the question. Like, in terms of the experience that you had, I'm actually was very happy to see the committee out and meeting the troops on real operations, because we get to see them here in uniform, but it's hard to really get a good appreciation until you really get to see them in action. And more importantly, as you stated, you get reactions of other people on what they're doing. So this is one of the reasons why in this supplementary estimates were the pay raise was so important. That the having the over 6% pay increase, to be able to making sure that to thank them. And more importantly, this pay raise is not about just now, it's about how it was actually retroactive, starting going back to 2014. And they were getting their lump sum checks that goes back. They got those back in June. And that's what we wanted to do when the defense policy was launched, to making sure that our members felt this defense policy, that we're looking out for them. This is one of the reasons why we also put into place the tax-free exemption for international named operations as well, because that also impacts the members, but also their families. And so there's a significant emphasis in our defense policy to sit on our people, but I'll also just remind everybody about their families as well. That's why we're investing heavily into the MFRCs and building that resilience. We still have a lot of work to do, because we got to be implementing the defense policy. That resilience piece is also going to be extremely important. So as we jointly announce the suicide prevention strategy with Veterans Affairs, we're going to be working on and finalizing the plans for how we're closing the seam and have that seamless transition from the military. So we're absolutely seized of this, and we're going to continue to work hard. And the pay increase was that one way of starting.
Thank you for that, Minister. And you touched on one of the other questions that I was going to ask was in particular about supporting our military personnel from recruitment, right to retirement and beyond. And as equally as important, supporting their families, which is something that you touched on. I know that in Kingston, at CFB Kingston, they have a very active military family resource center that helps with military families, in particular when their loved ones are abroad. These programs and these resources, as you've indicated, are important, and you touched on the pay and benefits aspect of it. But I'm wondering if you can comment on not just the benefits part of it, but how important it is to make sure that the families are also taken care of at home when their loved ones are abroad. What that means, not just for the family members here, but also for the performance of our personnel abroad.
And you raise a good point here. I think all of us, regardless, all Canadians, when we go to work, if things are not good at home, when you have a sick child at home, and you're thinking about them, it's hard to sometimes focus on work. Now imagine for the military, as you know, when you're deployed, right? How difficult it can be that when you physically can't even actually be there. So putting those resources into place is giving the member and their family that sense of confidence, and making sure that the wider Canadian Armed Forces and they have support structure in place, so that the family feels that they're also going to be looked after as well, because they have the extra burden of when their family member is deployed, not knowing what they're doing. The family member who's been deployed knows exactly what they're doing, but they're missing their families. So it's an extremely difficult time, and we wanted to make sure that they had the right support structure. That's why the investments in the MFRCs were so important. And more importantly, want to make sure that the MFRCs and the support structures of the base are actually catered to the different types of needs that each base has. And one particular example was for me, was that there was a single mom who's with the military police who works night shift, but couldn't get daycare. But those are the things that adjustments can be made now within the bases, because we're putting the investments into the MFRCs, so that she can actually go to work and not have to put the extra burden of finding who's going to look after my child when I have to do night shift. So those are those tangible examples that I can provide to you, that how deeply we're looking at this.
Thank you.
Thanks. Before I turn the floor over to Mr. Hoback, just a reminder, if anyone sees this flag, I call it, or paper, it just means I'd like you to think about wrapping up within 30 seconds. It makes my job easier and makes sure everyone has the appropriate amount of time. Mr. Hoback.
Oh, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. It's funny, my furnace never breaks down when I'm at home. It always breaks down when I'm gone. So your comments about being away and taking care of your family are so important, for sure. In your opening remarks, you talked about the vision for defense and what we need to get our troops and our forces the appropriate tools. So I'm going to look at the Navy side of things at this point in time and the Canada Surface Combatant plan that we have in place with the Irving Shipyard. Now, we understand that November 30th is the final deadline for proposals to be submitted. And in this process, there's been some expression of frustration in the process with a combination of the 50 changes in design that was requested from the bidders, and then of course the intellectual property that they have to voluntarily give up as they make the proposal. So I guess the question I have is how are you dealing with that, and how many of these bidders that we had at the start are still there, going to be putting proposals in place tomorrow?
Well, I'm actually, when it comes to our national shipbuilding strategy, this is a nation-level strategy to making sure that that our Navy has the right ships for well into the future.
We'll have to be fast. I only get 7 minutes. We'll have to be
sorry
fast,
about that. So one of the things is we're looking at we'll find out how many bids are going to be coming tomorrow when it closes. We're confident that the process that we have taken has actually been robust enough and fair enough so that many companies can compete. A lot of some of the issues that you're talking about, the intellectual property, have been addressed. I'm happy to actually, Vice, if you want to comment. Actually, yeah, Patrick Finn, ADM Mac can answer that in more detail.
Thank you, sir. Very quickly, there were no design changes made in the RFP, so our requirements have remained unchanged. What we did is, after the first round of evaluation, we got some really good feedback of how to improve and streamline, so the changes we made were all about how to streamline the evaluation. On the intellectual property, there's a very different views from the bidders. So what we've taken is a middle ground. We clearly have to protect the taxpayer. This is a ship that will be in service for 50 years. Yep. We want to make sure we have sufficient to be able to maintain the readiness of the Royal Canadian Navy for those 50 years. And I would say some of the parts that were not just contentious, but bidders had different views, we've set aside such that we've created a process. Whatever is the most competitive bidder, we've said we'll spend 45 days negotiating the final intellectual property to try to deal with the disparate views. And it really is different around the world. Okay. So the problem is the feedback we got was so different, you could not write a set of intellectual property clauses for everybody.
So then with this, you've created some delays, of course. We've delayed out to the 30th. Now there's talking about basically a construction gap that's going to happen at Irving Shipyard. So how are we going to deal with that, and what's your plans to make sure that gap isn't there?
The first part of the question then?
Well, with the delays, you're going to see what they call a construction gap at the shipyards with layoffs and unemployment that's a result of that. So there could be some cost of some $3 billion in the ships.
Well, first of all, I think because we were starting out creating the national shipbuilding strategy, and we're actually kind of kickstarting our industry. And so we knew early on that there was going to be a lot of work that needed to be done. But in time, as they get better at the workforce, they have better trades, more experience, that this will improve. And so we're working very closely with Minister Qualtrough on this and trying to address some of those gaps. We have teams that are embedded directly with the shipyards to be able to speed up the process and decision making as well. We knew that they were going to have delays, but what the thing is, through time, we're hoping that some of these delays are going to be actually decreased because of the efficiency that they're going to be able to create.
So you'd be able to give this committee a timeline now that's updated with the current delays and relevant information to...
Not at this. I don't think it will have, in terms of the time frame that we have to discuss. Yep. Happy to be able to provide a greater update down the road.
Okay. Any idea of what time down the road when you'd be able to provide that?
After the first AOPS is complete, we'll have a better idea of the total timeline to finish the AOPS, and then we'll be in a different process.
So approximate date?
Spring.
Spring. Okay, that works for me. Moving on to joint supply ships, we've taken, as you know, whether it's Seaspan is building the joint supply ships, and we've actually went in and leased a ship, I understand, from Davies. So we have one ship for the interim. Are we looking at leasing a second ship so that we actually have a ship on both coasts? And do you believe that's important, that we have a supply ship on both coasts?
So I think it's very important to note and clarify the things here. For the defense policy and from the military advice, we needed 2 joint supply ships, and those are being built by Seaspan. Now, because we had lost that capability, we were mitigating some of that that support through the work from Chile and Spain, and they were supporting us. So through the smart scheduling, making sure that when our ships deploy, they're with other nations that can support them. But we felt that because of this gap, we needed an interim measure. Hence the reason why we had the request was made for 1 interim ship, and that's what we have now. We're very happy that Davy was able to fulfill those needs for us, but that's the interim capability gap is the 1 ship that Davy is completing now, and the rest will be with the 2 joint supply ships.
But you must be concerned about the progress of the joint supply ships with Seaspan. You know, construction of these ships are to begin at the end of this year, and of course that's been now pushed back. In fact, they're still working on some icebreakers and research vessels, I understand. So the cost obviously is going to go up as we keep pushing these supply ships back. How are you accounting for that? And what are you doing to get it back on stream, to get it back in a timeline that we get into a scenario where we can actually see ships that we can still afford?
Well, we've been working from day one in terms of making the process more efficient. We've done some pretty good work initially to get some of the process piece down, making more efficient. I'm confident that as we progress with time, things will get better. These are understandable growing pains because this is a very large project that we have started. But I'm confident that things will be more efficient as we move forward.
No.
Thank you for the answer. Ronald Garrison.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister for being here today. I'm very glad to see the additional funding for the search and rescue aircraft being from the West Coast. Very important to us. And I also thank Mr. Hoback for asking some questions about naval shipbuilding. I think you know the NDP remains very committed to shipbuilding strategy, but also to seeing that strategy as a floor, not a ceiling. And we know there's other work needed for the Navy that might be able to go to other shipyards. But today we have the privilege of having some representatives of DND civilian employees from my riding here in the room with us. And I'm very proud to have 1,060 Public Service Alliance members in my riding. And that includes, I guess, nearly 1,000 civilian employees of DND. And I'm not so proud to say that 60% of them have Phoenix pay problems. And those pay problems are very, very serious. And we have with us today, and she's given my permission to say this, a civilian employee who is a single parent who's been underpaid for over a year and is now worried that when eventually she is paid, there'll be some large lump sum payment that will have tax impacts, that will have impacts on other benefits, and frankly, it'll be almost impossible to figure out whether this person has been properly paid or not. And in the interim, she has to make hard choices in her family because she's being underpaid. So my question for you is, have you received reports from DND about the impacts that these pay problems are having on the morale of people who are working there, on the time it takes away from the jobs they're supposed to be doing, on the impacts of their families, and on impacts like things like employee retention? So have you received any of those reports on those impacts? I know you don't do Phoenix yourself, but I'm concerned about its impacts on the employees and the functionality of the Canadian Forces.
No, Mr. Garrison, when it comes to when I said we're looking after our people and as we put this in our defense policy, it's a responsibility of all of us. And so as a minister all the way down, making sure these issues. And I don't know where she is. Hi, first of all, I just want to personally apologize for what you have to go through. It's completely unacceptable. And this is one of the things every department, including us, are working extremely hard. And so, yes, I will speak to the Deputy Minister every single week about this, making sure that even individual issues, that how are we addressing them, where we have working on certain measures. Actually, Deputy, you want to talk about some of the measures?
So, thank you for the question. And Phoenix is an issue that we talk about daily, almost hourly some days within the Department of National Defence. We are 10% of the public service, and we are 10% of the problem. There's 16,000 employees right now affected by Phoenix, and so we treat every single one of them as critical. And so if I get the details of your situation, I will personally look into it. And I've made that offer at every town hall I've done. An employee can email me directly and tell me their situation, and we'll do everything we can to move that file forward. D&D was one of the departments spoken to by the Auditor General for the most recent report. We were very honest about our situation. I'm on the Deputy Minister Steering Committee looking at Phoenix Solutions. I'm working very closely with PSPC and Treasury Board to find solutions, and we're throughout the governance. Our CFO has issued over $2 million in emergency salary advances, and we do everything we can to assist. But my plea to the employees within the Department of National Defence is to please tell me what's going on, because I can't fix what I don't know.
Thank you for those responses, but I think the reason the representatives are here today is they're trying to tell you that a case-by-case approach will never fix this, and they're going to need some more general things to take place and some hiring of personnel to be on site to deal with payroll programs.
So on that note, one of the things, because your question was regarding do we get briefed? I'm just giving the level of detail that we go into, making sure that each case is looked at. But more importantly, for the wider piece to it, no, this is something we're taking very seriously. While we're taking the wider government approach to this, I also want to state this. I've been working with Mr. Qualtrough, and our recommendations on what we can do to support some of those changes within, and so that we can be part of the solution while the bigger problem is being looked at.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, just over a year ago, this committee voted unanimously to request you to authorize the military ombudsman to begin to revise the service records of those who were kicked out of the Canadian Forces for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. And now that we've had the apology in the House of Commons, my question to you today is, do you intend to authorize the military ombudsman to revise those service records, or are there some other actions you're going to be taking to right the wrongs that were committed with these dishonorable discharges?
First of all, I think, like you, yesterday, we're very proud, while at the same time saddened that we had to make something apology even like that for what has happened. So in terms of the process, this is about fixing those records. So absolutely, those are going to be done. So we're encouraging people to come forward. So the process is not going to begin. I got to meet with many people who actually told me their personal stories. So absolutely, we're going to be working towards. And there's a few other things that we're going to be working on as well, but it's too early to talk about that just yet. We want to make sure that we can right this wrong in the best possible way as possible.
I appreciate your response. I thank you for your concern on this, but to say we're still going to have to wait, people have waited decades for this to happen. So when will that process be in place, and how soon will this actually get started? Because the military ombudsman, for instance, said he has the staff and the expertise to actually start doing this. So if you have some other process in mind that's much slower than that, I guess my question would be why?
I think one of the things is I want to make sure that this is actually done. So I think there is absolutely no disagreement between any of us. We want to move as quickly as possible. We want to make sure that we actually honor that proper commitment, that it's done well. Plus, in addition to that, there might be even other issues, which I even heard about yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that there's other things that are addressed. And I'm just going to throw it to General Lamar to be able to answer a little bit more detail as well.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Commander, Military Personnel Command, and it'll be our responsibility to do full implementation, including looking at all the records, to make sure that those people who were released from the Canadian Forces at that time, their records are amended to reflect exactly the decision that was taken and the apology of the government. And of course, we'll be working very closely with the Ombudsman to do that specifically.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. Darren Fisher.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, to you and your team for being here. I always appreciate having you before us. Minister, Nova Scotia has a proud and successful shipbuilding heritage, and as you know, Irving Shipbuilding is located in both ridings of Halifax and Dartmouth Cole Harbour. And as you also know, they're the prime contractor for the Canadian Surface Combatant Program, both for project definition and for the implementation phases. So we've got tradespeople from all across Canada working in the Halifax Regional Municipality, building ships and planting roots. We've got the schools ramping up training. We've got Indigenous pilot programs. We've got Women Unlimited. We've got some really incredible things going on back home. So folks are eager to get the Surface Combatant project underway as soon as possible, and I'm really pleased to see funding in the SUPs for this project. I wonder if you could fill me in on what the government's doing to keep the project, this very important project, on track.
Well, first of all is we look forward to the final bids tomorrow. We've worked on, when it came into this portfolio, even before we started the defense policy review, we were looking at in terms of how do we create the national building strategy even faster. It's one of the reasons why we looked at changing the process in terms of making sure that we go to a one system, which is actually picking just competing the design. And in terms of moving fast on this, there is no person probably more eager than myself, and probably maybe more than the Navy, any Navy personnel in here. Or you, yeah, to get this done. No, this is so important, and we also got to remember is that this is not just the building of the ships, but the life cycle of the work that's going to be needed, and what's going to be still competed into the future. This has significant opportunities for Canada, across Canada as well.
So something that I talk about quite often at the Environment Committee, and we talk about greening government services. And that's something that we see every day, and I firmly believe that we need to set an example up here at the top from the federal government. So the defense policy states that national defense will take steps to reduce its carbon footprint in line with federal greenhouse gas reduction targets and protect nature. So can you let me know what your department's doing or going to do to help green government services?
First of all, in our defense policy, we have $225 million of additional funding to invest into greening, for us to do our part in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But one of the things I want to be able to stress is this is not just about the dollars. This is about doing it in a smart manner, picking the right places where we have the greater greenhouse gas emissions, and putting the right money. How do we at the same time also allow our industry to benefit as well? So there are certain projects that we're already looking at, and we will do our part. More importantly, what I'm more excited about is the innovation piece. How can we use this opportunity to look at what is the Canadian Armed Forces going to look like into the future? We know that from battery systems, the new type of fuels, those are those type of things. So in addition to what we're doing in terms of greening, we're going to be looking at the innovation piece, our innovation agenda as well, how we're going to be looking at using that piece to solve some of the problems of the future as well.
Minister, I'm so glad you said that, and I really appreciate that thoughtful answer, and I hope that that's the way we're moving in the future, because you're right. It's not just a challenge, it's our biggest opportunity. So thank you. Is there any more time left?
Yeah, you've got about 3 minutes.
Oh, I can pass something on to...
Well, thank you very much.
Didn't know there was 3 minutes.
I want to change the conversation just a little bit because, of course, we are at a time where we're witnessing unprecedented global instability. And while I don't have actually any military installations in my riding of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, we do have a population that's quite concerned about our role in the world and about the instability that we're seeing. And so they were very pleased, as was I, to be able to see that engaged in the world is really an important part of the defense policy review. And so as a former Air Force officer and someone who is privileged enough to be married to an ex-Air Force fighter pilot, it was pretty amazing for me to have the opportunity to go to Bucharest in Romania with the NATO Parliamentary Assembly and meet some of our operational fighter guys over there. I wonder if you could give us some idea of what exactly they're doing and why it's so important to our new defense policy.
So I'm glad you raised that point, because being engaged in the world is saying something, but how do you actually demonstrate it in the world? And that's meaningful. And what I've stated is, in the defense policy and to our government, multilateralism is extremely important. No one nation can do it alone. So we've re-engaged, whether it's been Operation Impact with part of a coalition and then NATO. So within Romania, the air policing that we've added in is just actually one of the things. We have a consistent frigate as well. We have now, we're leading a battle group in Latvia. And outside of NATO, we're in the Ukraine as well. So if you look at that in terms of stepping up, more importantly, what message is it sending? We're taking a leadership role in NATO and demonstrating that deterrence works, demonstrating the importance of NATO to our other allies as well. And the best example of saying how no it's working, actually our battle group in Latvia, it is the most, if I can use the word, multicultural battle group compared to the rest of them. We have nations from all across, from the west, from the south, from the east, that are part of it. It makes it more challenging to manage, but it's a good challenge that the military likes because they get to learn from one another. So to me, that was the best demonstration. And when the Secretary General of NATO actually came down for the initial operational capability ceremony, he said that, he goes, our ceremony that we had when you have so many nations, it is sending a phenomenal message to Russia. Yet it's one battle group, but when you have so many nations coming together, working for another, that's the best message of deterrence that you're sending. So we are having that impact.
Right on time. We're gonna go to 5-minute questions now, and Mr. Spangeman, you have the first 5-minute question.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Minister, thank you for being here along with your senior team. It's great to have you back. The Canadian Forces are about the people that we have. It's about excellence at the level of individuals and teams and leadership, but it's also about making sure that we give our Canadian Forces the best equipment to make sure they can be at the top of their game. And I wanted to take the opportunity to ask you a bit more about two appropriation items. Those are the fixed-wing search and rescue aircraft and also the LAV-3 upgrade project. So the voted appropriations are $161 and $57 million, respectively. Can you tell the committee about the Airbus C295W and also about the LAV and how important those two assets are in the respective areas of search and rescue and overseas operations?
No, thank you for the question. I think this is one project, what is it, I think 12 years. And I was very happy to be able to make the announcement on this because search and rescue capability is something, as we all know, how important it is to Canadians. And more importantly, given the complexity with climate change up in the north, we're the last resort. We need to have the best equipment, and these aircraft are going to provide a phenomenal capability. I got to attend the SARTEC graduation ceremony in Comox and got to participate in the ceremony. That was nice. But when they're talking about what it's going to help their ability to be able to locate much more faster because of sophisticated equipment, this is going to be extremely fundamental change how we do search and rescue. So I think I'm looking forward to this because it's going to help save lives. So I'm happy about that. The lab project, I'm also happy to say that originally the upgrade of the labs didn't include all of the labs in our inventory. This allows us to actually increase basically all the complements of labs that the Army actually needs, and that's something that was very important. Otherwise, we had to work out some other factors in terms of maybe not actually having enough labs. This actually does that. So that's how important this project is. It gives the Army the proper mobility moving forward. And I just wanted to be able to throw this to the Vice to comment on it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. So first of all, the Airbus aircraft, the 295, is going to be replacing 60s vintage aircraft, our Buffalo and our Hercules H model. So it's replacing legacy aircraft with legacy technology, with new sensors, modern navigation, flight planning capability. It's going to be greener just by the nature of the technology, and also state-of-the-art simulators for the training of our aircrew. It is also going to be night vision goggle compatible, which will make our mission much more effective at night. As for the LAV, it upgrades the chassis and improves the mobility and protection of the fleet. It provides improved protection against large improvised explosive devices or direct attack weapons such as propelled grenades. So both of these capabilities are great capability enhancements for our men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Minister, just to go to a second theme, this government is about investment, investing in Canadians, investing in people in the economy, investing socially, and investing in our armed forces. And you mentioned briefly in your introductory comments that since 2008, we've had a number of lapsed budget items since 2008, I think to the effect of $2 billion, if I recall your testimony, and that we now no longer have lapsed funds. I wonder if you could just clarify for the committee and elaborate briefly how important that is that we don't have budget items that simply lapse.
I'm very happy about this and the great work that the team has done so that we don't have lapsed money, this is I think it took a lot of work by the team, and actually just want to throw the to Claude, who's actually done tremendous work on this.
Thank you, Minister. So thank you for the questions. Basically, yes, we have been working over the past 2 years with central agencies, especially Treasury Board Secretariat, to look at how we can manage our budget at defense so we can reduce the unspent funds that we receive in here. So if I look at like 2 years ago, for example, we would have a project, for example, that would need additional funding, like $600 million. And another project that we would have some delays and we would not spend $100 million. The old days, we would have requested $600 million, and we would have kept the $100 million and just return it at the end of the fiscal year. So in lieu of looking at each capital project now one by one in Stovepipe, we look at them as a portfolio, and we manage all the funding that we have, and we have the funding only when we need it. So based on that, now we have been able to reduce our lapses from 2 years ago, $2 billion to less than $850 this year.
Thank you for that. That's helpful, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Urdiga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank the Minister for taking time out of his busy schedule. I know you're all over the place, and a lot of work has to be done. My first question, Minister, are you willing to provide any briefs to the committee on whether the RCN has any evaluations on running our auxiliary oil replenishment?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. If you can repeat it, please, sir.
Okay, are you willing to provide any briefs to the committee on whether the RCN has any evaluation on running our auxiliary oil replenishment?
Right, are you talking about the joint supply ships? Because those
Yes.
are... So plans on how do we run that?
Yes.
Okay, and not the interim one, right? I just want to make sure I've got the proper clarification here. To the two joint supply ships, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, right.
No, absolutely. I think we've done, during their defense policy review that we conducted, a lot of work was done to making sure that the Navy that we're going to be fitting for the future is going to be have the right support. And this was the advice that was given conducted by the work that was done by the military, advice that was given. And hence the reason why we have all the necessary equipment needed. And the joint supply ships are so essential. And this is why I talk about when it comes to a capability gap. If you don't manage your equipment well, you're going to lose that capability. And right now, we're in that situation for the Navy, and hence why we're very keen to make sure the two joint supply ships come online as quickly as possible so that they support the future of the Navy. Vice, you want to add anything further to that?
So the requirement is clear that we need two joint support ships, and then in the meantime we have the AOR interim. The requirements there, it's about the ship be able to sustain and operate forward. If you cannot do that, then you have to rely on others, or you have to, just like the case when we went to the hurricanes, you have to stop en route before you do the humanitarian aid in the Caribbean, because you don't have your integral resupply and refueling.
So if we can get briefs on both, also the interim supply vessels, if that's possible.
So you're looking at additional information
Yes.
on briefs on the joint supply ships, how they operate, or I just want to make sure
Evaluations.
Evaluations on.
Evaluation on the procurement, or
Yeah.
evaluation on what they're going to do?
I just want to make sure we get the answer quickly here. You talk about the evaluations of are the defense policy review on what was needed, the number, or are we talking about how they operate?
How they're performing. I mean, obviously there's a gap right now.
No, right now we don't have the joint supply ships, right? So right now they're in the process to be built. Right now, the current system that we have is we're relying on. We had to outsource some of our support or do smart scheduling. One of them was we work with Chile and Spain to provide that support. Hence the reason why when we looked at the scheduling for the two joint supply ships, right, we felt that we needed an interim capability to be filled, and hence why we went with this option, which Davy was awarded the contract for. So I'm happy to provide more information on that piece of it.
Okay. Well, thank you. My next question, on February 23rd, 2017, in the House of Commons, you stated that we will not be buying used aircraft for our Air Force. Is this statement true?
Well, on that note, so what we're committed to doing, we were we are committed to making sure that we replace our fighters. And we committed in a program, a 3-step program to do this, 3 parts to it. One of them is to have a full competition to making sure that we pick the right aircraft. And part of the defense policy review that the analysis that we conducted was that that we cannot risk manage our NORAD and NATO requirements simultaneously. Hence the reason why the number of 65 that we had from the previous government wasn't going to be enough. We have increased it to 88. So 88 that's the number we'll be competing for. In addition to that, the other step is also to invest in the legacy fleet to manage that transition period. But to give us that ultimate assurance, we needed to fill the intercapability gap. So we were currently, at that time, on a path towards working with the U.S. government on an option to look at the Super Hornet. But because of Boeing's action to take such an unprecedented approach on attacking our aerospace sector, we felt that this was unacceptable. Hence the reason why we started looking at other options. So yes, right now, because of the situation that had changed, we can't allow our aerospace sector and our jobs to be undermined by a U.S. company. We had to look at other options. Hence the reason why I am currently, the department is looking at other options with Australia.
And that's your time there, Mr. Urtaga. I'm going to have to give the floor over to Mr. Robillard.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Minister, and welcome to the other witnesses as well. My questions will be in French. Among the votes, there's funding for the Management Transformation Project for military personnel. Could you describe the use set out for these funds and the nature of the transformation project? Will the funds be used to provide better service and management for personnel in the military?
Thank you very much for the question. When it comes to looking after our personnel, we not only putting our money into it, making sure that our policies also reflect that. Hence the reason why we're requested $1.8 million in Vote 5 of the statutory funding for a new military management of our personnel. So transfer a new project, and I'll have the general talk more about that. What we want to do here in this case here is not just about putting the money in the right place, managing our people to making sure their careers are managed, how their health is also looked after, building their resiliency. It does require, when you have that many people, a really good system into place. So we felt that we needed to modernize our system. And General Lamar can talk in more detail about the system.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Minister. The funding will be for automating the system. This is something that's already underway. It will bring us to a better level, specifically for the reserve. They will benefit from all of this. And what we're doing now is we're going forward to ensure that the 2 pay systems that we currently have for the reserves and for the regular forces be joined so that there's no interruption or difference between the 2 systems. People will receive the pay they should receive, but it will simplify how we do it. And in the long term, it would help us to streamline the way we allow members of the Canadian Armed Forces to transfer between the regular forces and the reserves. Because we really want to help all members of the Canadian Armed Forces in their journey, to provide more flexibility so they can work full-time, part-time, and sometimes take breaks in their service to be able to do other projects that they'd like to do in their life. So by modernizing the system, by automating it for staff management, it will provide more flexibility to allow us to do that. Thank you. Among the transfers, there's another transfer to support the maintenance of Resolute Bay. The Resolute Bay facility and the related logistics support to the Canadian Forces Arctic Training Centre. Can you tell us more about the benefits for Canadian Forces for the maintenance of this training centre and the Resolute facility?
How important the Canadian Armed Forces' ability to operate in the Arctic is. And as with the changes in new technology, we need to make sure that our personnel have the right training, because it really does take specialized training. And I've been able to have the privilege of working with a lot of the Rangers, and you get to see the difficulty that the Arctic faces. So making sure that we have the right capability and our people are actually trained up to that level, you need that training center, and that's what this Resolute Bay does, that training center there. And that's the reason why we're putting those investments in there, to making sure that our personnel are always stay at the cutting edge, and especially as we put greater emphasis in the Arctic.
Thank you. I still have some time.
50 seconds for a question and response.
I'll pass it on to my colleague.
I'm sorry, 50 seconds? Mr. Chair.
40.
A very unexpected. Thank you very much. Minister, I wonder if you can just tell the committee your reaction to yesterday's announcement.
I think for all of us, and I think Canadians across the country, I just looked at it, people that wanted to put the uniform on to serve their country, wanted to make a difference, who signed on the dotted line, who were willing to give up their life for their country, who were taught about fighting the enemies of the country, and then one day to be told that, no, you are the enemy. And I mean, no apology can take away the hurt, the guilt, that was created for those people, but this is a start. And the healing begins, as started yesterday. We have a lot of work to do still. We have to look at this every single individual, and not just by their files, but who they are, what they went through, to making sure that we give that confidence back. And so this is a start, but we have a lot of work to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Gallant.
Mr. Chairman, and through you, yesterday North Korea fired a missile, another one, and it was test for 13,000 kilometers. BC's coast is less than 10,000 kilometers away. Now, I see in the Sup-Bs that you do have mentioned that there will be funding for radiological nuclear in the $14,529,000 line. Is any of that money going towards mitigating, preventing, protecting Canadians from potentially a nuclear missile attack?
The funding that we have, I'll answer the question about the support that our Canadian Special Forces provide. This is a very specialized capability that they need to stay at the cutting edge of this, to making sure that regardless of whether it's a nuclear or biological, that they have the right training, the right equipment. And your bigger question in terms of an actual attack, that is far greater. For example, we work very closely with our allies, especially the U.S. when it comes to monitoring the situation with North Korea. We started from day one looking at the various threats. We looked at this from a defense policy review perspective. Hence the reason why we actually had this committee look at what I felt probably was the most important piece of the defense policy, was the security side of it.
Okay, but are we protected? As Canadians need to know, are we protected because now one can reach our mainland? Are we protected from a national defense point of view?
Actually, in terms of your question, those missiles can actually reach almost anywhere in the world, right? And we're monitoring this very closely. We are looking at not only what we have right now with the work that we do with NORAD. We have seamless transition in terms of from reporting that happens to the actions that are taken. More importantly, on what we have to do to de-escalate, get them to de-escalate. And that's why diplomacy isn't so important. While we work from the defense side of things, and the NORAD modernization piece that I've talked a lot about, we not only have to look at the current threat that we face now. This is a defense policy for into the future. I want to make sure that we look at all perils of threats. So the air threat that you talked about, absolutely, we need to be very concerned about that. But we've got to look at the land. We've got to look at the under the water as well. So those are the things that we're gonna be looking at, and that's one of the reasons we put it right in the defense policy on how we're going to be doing the NORAD modernization and plus with the North Warning System.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, you talked about the back pay and money going towards environment and special allowances. Now, we know the special allowances for the special forces were clawed back if they are injured and not recovered within 180 days. Is any of that money that you mentioned going to be ameliorating the situation where these special forces had no advance notice that their allowances were going to be decreased and clawed back in some cases?
I think, Ms. Glenn, one of the important aspects, we have to make sure that we don't put out disingenuous information. We're committed to making sure that we support the Canadian Armed Forces, and it's incumbent upon all of us to making sure that the policies that we put in place, that we get the right advice, and where it's not being done well, is give the right advice. And I've been extremely open right from day one about this. We've increased the pay. In fact, we've actually retroactively gone back to 2014, and you have to answer the question why. Why wasn't it given a pay raise back in those days? So we've backdated to 2014 for the pay, increased the benefits. We're actually putting not only the right benefits in place, but also the chain of command from the Chief of Defense on down to making sure that they have a right system to look after the people. And I could be able to throw this to the Vice.
Left, sir. So
I'm happy to get the Vice to answer some of that questions for you.
Why we have there was a delay because their increases are tied to other forces, civilian employees increases. So. Is any of this money going to go towards the announced seamless transition of pay when soldiers are medically released? On June 7th, you announced that as of then, people, when they're releasing, they won't have to wait months and sometimes almost a year to have the pay, their pension, their medical pension start, and they've already lost their pay because they've been medically released, and nor do they have the medical treatment in place. So is any of that money going towards that? And you also mentioned that we were going to be divesting of certain real estate. Could you provide a list of the different armories and other real estate? Because armories aren't just for recruiting and training, they're also community centers. So it's really important that the different communities know which armories are on the list to be closed.
Unfortunately, there's no time to answer that. I'm sorry, Minister. I'm going to have to yield the floor to Ms. Ellsleff.
And thank you very much again, Minister. I note that the supplementary estimates also include funds for the United Nations Peacekeeping Defense Ministerial that was recently held here in Canada in Vancouver. And I also note that one of the conversations that we were having was around peace, women, and security. And I know that we've got the United Nations resolution of 1325. NATO also has a corresponding resolution, 1325. I know the UN has had it since 2000, which is 17 years ago. So can you give us an idea of what Canada is proposing in terms of women, peace, and security? And again, why now? Why Canada?
I think was very proud to host over 80 nations to talk about peace support operations around the world and bring in new initiatives. And as you just stated, 1325. Look how long ago. And it was to increase the number. What are we going to do with women, peace, and security? Our numbers on peace operations have minusculely increased. So instead, what we wanted to do as Canada is look at where the needs are of the United Nations and also through country nations. If we're going to be now re-engaging, that's what we're trying to do. The initiative that Minister Freeland announced is going to overall have the wider impact about encouraging other nations to step up their increasing women on peace operations. But more importantly, the first questions that we have to ask, and allowed us to have this discussion in Vancouver, was we need to increase the number of women in our armed forces if we're going to increase the number of women on peace support operations. And we had a lot of discussions about that too. And I don't think I need to go into the research side of why this is important. This is the right thing to do if we want to reduce conflict. But more importantly, our initiatives that we outlined was about helping to improve the system and to do it in a way that's what the UN wanted. They wanted smart pledging, because making sure that missions that are there, that each mission, one nation provides the capability, then it gets pulled out. Making sure they have all the right capability seamlessly through until the conflict actually reduces. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. And I was also very proud of the Vancouver Principles, which is the child soldier, preventing child soldiers, and want to give tremendous kudos to General Dallaire on this. This is another mechanism, reducing the number of kids being recruited into these organizations is going to reduce conflict. And this is now another opportunity for us, to Canada, to step up, offer up an initiative on how to do this and putting it into our training system. I'm very proud, and I'm very excited about the implementation of this.
And you mentioned, of course, that in order to be able to have and lead by example and contribute more women to peacekeeping operations, we need to have more women in the military as well. Now, I was a female in the military in the 80s and 90s, and we set targets back then to achieve 25%. And if we look at the stats, we maybe haven't achieved that yet. And now I notice in the Strong, Secure, and Engaged, we have set real targets, and it's exciting to see. And I know that with the conversation that's going on and the things that you've been doing, this time is different. Can you give us some idea of how it's different, why now, and why is Canada positioned to be a leader in this conversation?
Well, first of all, I think it goes without saying, you can't ignore 50% of your population. And I've said this when I was at Halifax, at the Halifax Security Forums, any naysayers just have to get over it. And what's different now is the fact that leadership matters, and we have the right leadership from our Prime Minister. We have the right leadership within our military, and it's going to be infused all the way down. And plus, it's also an important thing to do. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done on this, and so this is about our making sure that we also making sure that we have the right structure in place to get the right talent to come up, to making sure women also have those key leadership positions, to have the right mentors to take those spots. And I know that General Vance is absolutely seized with this.
Certainly is a difficult topic, and there are still many, not even just in the military, but in society, that are saying, well, yes, but women don't belong. This is something, there are certain roles for women and certain roles not for women, and particularly in the military. And even the people in my riding are, well, are you really sure it's not, the door is open. The reason you don't have women in the military is because they're not interested in doing this, and they really shouldn't be anyway. As civilians, how can we as citizens in Canada, not only in uniform but out of uniform, further this conversation to really make the point why women in peace and security matter?
And again, we're out of time, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to let you answer. Yes, Ms.
Yes, just before you dismiss our witness.
We have one more question, actually.
Okay.
Mr. Garretson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There's many things, of course, I'm proud to represent CFP Esquimalt, the Home Canadian Pacific Fleet, but this is the estimate, so it's our chance to ask accountability questions. So I think last year after you had to leave, I talked to General Vance about this. We've had a lot of facilities on our base and in many bases across the country that still have asbestos in them. And we've had Canadian Forces members, both in the forces and civilian members, working in facilities where asbestos is yet to be removed. And in particular, CFP Esquimalt, we have barracks that should have been condemned 10 years ago that still have asbestos in them. So I'm wondering, Mr. Minister, if in the supplemental estimates, there's enough money here to complete that work on asbestos removal and do things like replace the barracks at CFP Esquimalt.
Before I just end it off to Elizabeth here, I just want to be able to say, when you don't put enough resources in to do the maintenance of buildings, this is what you end up dealing with, right? And so we are, when we talk about greening government and making sure that our infrastructure piece, that investment, this is going to take into account. So not only we're going to, when we're looking at new buildings, modernizing buildings, we're going to be putting in a good system to actually look after the infrastructure that we have as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Minister. I guess I'll start certainly by indicating that the health and safety of Canadian Armed Forces members and our D&D civilians, as well as the public, is a priority for the Department of National Defence. And since 1987, we have been ensuring that asbestos-containing materials are not used in new construction or any major renovations. And we as well have developed policies and procedures with respect to asbestos, ensuring health and safety for all of our personnel. With respect to the asbestos that you were mentioning, it was found October 26 when we were working on Hangar 7. There is a ongoing construction project there to repurpose a portion of the hangar. And asbestos was a known risk, and all the appropriate monitoring and procedures were in place. In the initial assessment that was done, it was determined that the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system needed to be cleaned, and during that process, there was some airborne asbestos that had been detected, and certainly immediately the area was shut down to test, and the appropriate measures were put in place to manage that, and it was determined that it was surface asbestos dust. So the proper cleanup is underway, and the appropriate monitoring is ongoing for that.
I think with respect, we're probably, that's a good project, but I think we're not hitting the mark that I was asking about, because in CFB at Esquimalt, we had a lot of the classrooms where things were being taught, where there was asbestos in the classrooms, and again, specifically the issue of replacing the barracks.
Yeah, so on that note, one of the things is, if there's any risk to our people, that'll be taken, it's immediate priority.
Thank you.
I think that's, Minister, that's all the questions we have for you today. Ms. Glenn had a point of order. Yeah, proceed.
Just before we release the minister, and thank you for coming, would you please provide the committee with a list of the properties, including the armories, that D&D is going to divest itself of?
Well, I just want to be able to state is we haven't gone through the full assessment on that. When it comes to different buildings, as you'd mentioned, we want to make sure to do a proper analysis. I'm going to allow the team to be able to do with the defense policy review that we have the right infrastructure that's needed. So we need to do our homework on that. When we have the right information, of course, not only are we making sure that it's presentable, but to Canadians as well, because some of these infrastructures are very important to the community, and we need to make sure where we're investing and where we're not going to be.
Thank you.
Minister, thank you very much for your time. We know you're busy. I'll suspend so you can depart, and we'll stay with the officials for another 45 minutes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah, welcome back to everyone. I know we have some new members, newer members. They've been here for a while, but just to remind everybody, when we go through the formal questioning, then we agreed some years ago that the chair would have be able to divide up the time, and predictably for the past 2 years I've just taken the remaining time and divided equally amongst the parties to make sure everyone had an opportunity, so I don't plan on changing that today. It will be no exception to that. So I will start with 5-minute questions. We'll go Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, and I'll just reevaluate and divide the time again until we get down to the end. I need to save a few minutes to the end for the committee to actually vote on the votes. So we'll do that. I'll need a couple minutes for that. And having said all that, I will resume with the first 5-minute question, and it'll go to Mr. Gerritsen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm going to split the time with Ms. Alslav. My question is in regards to the peacekeeping operations. In Kingston, there was, as you know, a new peacekeeping support training center that was recently officially opened, and the minister spoke about that in his opening comments. I'm wondering if you can elaborate for us on how these supplementary estimates include funds related to this, in particular, how the funds will assist that peacekeeping training center, and if you could explore, discuss the importance of the conference, the UN Peacekeeping Defense Ministerial Conference that occurred in Vancouver.
Thank you very much for the question. I think I'll start by talking about the conference. The UN Peacekeeping Ministerial Conference was an extraordinary opportunity for Canada to showcase not only what we are going to commit for peacekeeping, but additionally the principles the minister laid out, that our 600 troops are not as significant in the 20,000 people who are out doing peacekeeping at this time, as much as our principles and our approach to peacekeeping and women, peace and security. Training police officers, training other countries to how to use women in peacekeeping, being alongside with them as they train women who are actually in the field, as opposed to women go on peacekeeping and stay at the base camp and aren't actually out there interacting with the citizens in need. That approach will change the outlook on peacekeeping significantly. The minister spoke to, the Prime Minister spoke to, the Special Envoy Angelina Jolie spoke to the criticality of doing no harm in peacekeeping. And when peacekeepers from other countries are actually sexually assaulting the most vulnerable citizens that they're supposed to be supporting, those are not the values Canada supports. And so our entire approach to peacekeeping at UNPK and the Canadian view of peacekeeping, I think, was well understood by everybody in the world and much appreciated.
Do you think that the Peacekeeping Training Center will directly support that work?
I absolutely do. I can ask the Vice Chief to speak in more detail to it. But our Canadian values and our approach to peacekeeping, how we train, how we assist, and the missions we will take on are absolutely what's going to be taught in that centre.
I'm sharing my time and I only have just over 2 minutes, so I'll send it over to Ms. Alslav.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gerritsen, because I'd like to continue on that conversation, because there's a difference between support training, and particularly integrating women into support training, and operational training. And there are other countries in the world who actually have demonstrated, perhaps some of the Scandinavian countries who have done maybe a better job than we have, even in terms of the support training. And there really isn't anywhere, as far as I know, that leads in terms of women, peace and security, and operations training. So is part of this initiative to look at ways that we can actually leapfrog and become a center of excellence in that area of integrating women into peace and security that doesn't currently exist?
That's absolutely the goal of the centre, and that's Canada's vision of peace support operations. But in terms of the detail, I'll ask the Vice Chief to provide you some information.
So we have the peacekeeping center that here, where we train our personnel and we train other peacekeepers to go operate in the field. Again, according to our Canadian values and the priorities that we put in on women, peace, security, and not having child soldiers go in operations. And in turns, those trainers, those that have been trained, can now go train others as well. So there's another component where we project Canadian people to train others and help out in these areas.
And if I could, can you give us a time frame for when we might actually see it? And then, because I am the metrics girl, how will we know, how will we measure our success in that area?
So right now it's still new and embryonic, and it's part of our SSC campaign plan to bring all the initiatives together. So at this time I don't have a time frame. As you know, there's 111 initiative and lettered things. So our challenge right now is to take all this, the goodness that's in the policy and time phase and sequence it. So that part is in the early stage of the implementation of SSCs, but I cannot give you the detail right now on exact dates and specifics.
So I'll look forward to the next time that you come for the update. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hoback.
And thank you again, witnesses. I'm going to maybe just discuss about cybersecurity and how making sure that we're properly prepared for that. So I see this Canadian Special Operations, they're getting some $15.8 million for special IT projects to improve their command's ability to handle intelligence and data. And then we see another $12.3 million for the Communication Security Establishment Center of Excellency for Cyber Operations. How do those two interact, or do they interact? And how do you take cybersecurity on defense and put it across the whole spectrum? So, you know, there's economic implications to a cyber attack. There could be power grid implications for a cyber attack, for example. You know, 25% of our commerce is now done on the internet. So are we taking cyber threats seriously enough? And what are we doing to break down the silos so that we actually have a government-wide preparation in place to do that?
Thanks so much for the question. I can start off, and other folks might want to join in terms of what national defense in particular is doing. From your question of, are we taking cybersecurity serious enough? I can tell you at the Communications Security Establishment, cybersecurity is absolutely one of our key priorities, and we've been in the business of protecting the Government of Canada's information for the last 70 years. And I can also tell you that it sure has evolved over those 70 years. I mean, to your point, if you look at the use of technology today, not only in terms of how the government is delivering its services, but also in terms of how Canadians are using it, how businesses are using it. I mean, cybersecurity and IT now is just, it permeates almost every aspect of life. So from a Communication Security Establishment perspective, again, we take it very seriously, and we have a broad range of cybersecurity services, everything to providing advice and guidance to Government of Canada departments, to actually defending the Government of Canada's networks, and also to defending the Government of Canada's most sensitive secrets. The funding that you've referred to that is in the supplementary estimates is to help ensure that we can try to keep ahead of this very diverse and challenging and changing cybersecurity environment that we deal with. So this investment is to help us to maintain the robust cybersecurity posture of the Government of Canada, again, in light of the changing dynamics.
It takes not only the Department of Defense, it takes on other departments' possibility. Okay.
Absolutely. The Communication Security Establishment, one of our key roles is to provide that advice, guidance, and services to protecting Government of Canada systems writ large, not only the Department of National Defense.
So, one of the things that I've asked this committee to do is, and it's actually, we haven't had this motion passed, and I hope we will have it passed, is for this committee to look at cybersecurity and actually what our policy should be in balancing, protection of people's individual rights, yet getting the appropriate legislation in place so that you can actually do your job in an appropriate manner. I personally feel we're at more risk at a cyber attack than we are in any other attack, so I just want to make sure, do you feel we have those resources? Are we taking it serious enough? And then how are you finding working with other departments? Are they taking it serious enough? We've had other departments that have come under attack in the last few years that have put them into serious harm. Your opinion on that?
Well, as you know, Minister Goodale is undertaking a cybersecurity review, and Minister Sajjan is supporting him in that effort as well. So in terms of what the broader perspective on cybersecurity, that review is ongoing by Minister Goodale. In terms of is it being taken seriously enough, I mean, this is something that, again, consumes not only a lot of time and attention, but also a lot of strategizing to ensure that we have the right procedures in place, the right measures in place. I would say we have a robust security posture for the Government of Canada, but I would also suggest that no one can be complacent. This is always changing, it's always evolving, new types of threats that are there, and just more use, again, of technology. So it's not something we ever can be complacent and say we've done enough. I think the reality is, for now and the foreseeable future, that staying ahead of that cybersecurity game is going to be a key priority, for sure, for the communications security establishment.
Okay, thank you. One other question I want to go on to is the northern security in the Arctic, our icebreakers and patrols. In light of what we're seeing delays at C-SPAN and that, do we see do we have the capacity to do what we need to do in the Arctic at this point in time? And will we have that capacity 5 years out, 10 years out, until these new ships come into place?
I think there's two answers there. So the Royal Canadian Navy is not procuring icebreakers. They're procuring Arctic offshore patrol ships, and those vessels have an ice capacity, and they'll be able to operate in first-year ice in the Arctic 2 to 3 months of the year. The Canadian Coast Guard has icebreakers, and together the two organizations absolutely work in tandem from that front in terms of Arctic security. Arctic security, though, is very broad. The Vice Chief is a former Deputy Commander of NORAD, so certainly he can talk to you about the other aspects of security that are occurring in the Arctic. The ships we are getting, the AOPS, they'll be operational, I think, in time to provide good service with the Canadian Coast Guard.
It's going to rely on the Coast Guard for the icebreaking capabilities if it's beyond...
I'm going to have to stop it there, unfortunately.
They've always had to.
Always had to. Okay.
We're going to have time to come back around again, so if you want to continue, then that'll be okay. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Garrison.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for staying with us. At the time the National Shipbuilding Strategy got all parties' support, I already had some concerns, and I'm going to restate those. The committee's tired of hearing me, but that the shipbuilding strategy would become a ceiling rather than a floor. And at the time, I understood it was the minimum the Navy needed, not all the Navy ever wanted or might need in the future. And the second part was that there would be competitive bidding for other shipyards outside the strategy to meet the other needs of D&D for the smaller vessels, things like tugs, fireboats. And so I guess, and also for repair, refit, and maintenance. So it wasn't that all the work goes to two shipyards and there isn't any other work. And so I guess my question is, on the procurement side, what's happening with that other work, with the smaller ships, so with repair and maintenance? Is there work available for the other shipyards to be bidding on at this time?
I'll ask ADM Material to respond in detail. The answer, though, very broadly, is yes. And I think that we shouldn't conflate the National Shipbuilding Strategy with the requirements that have been laid out for the Royal Canadian Navy in the Defence Policy Review, which states the capacity required very clearly.
Thank you, sir, as always, for the question. So yes, as you know, a number of pillars in the strategy, including smaller vessels and maintenance. As laid out, is still the intention that smaller vessels for both the Coast Guard and the Navy, so a big one for us on the horizon is a project we call the Naval Large Tugs that will go out competitively. The two shipyards that build larger ships, so Irving Shipbuilding and C-SPAN, are precluded from bidding on those smaller projects, as well as maintenance. So we've had the submarine, for example, maintenance contract was a 15-year contract. It's still a few years to go, but it will be recompeted, as well as other maintenance. We competed the in-service support contract for both the Arctic offshore patrol ships and joint support ships, and that is now out. It was broader than just ship maintenance, so it was a broader who it was competed to. But as the ships get built, and this is a first for us, where we have this large in-service support contract in place before the first ship gets delivered, so we're much more seamless in that transition. But they will also have to compete out work. Work to maintain our auxiliary fleet, which is a fair-sized fleet, and our minor warships, again, has competed, and they then compete out work into shipyards. But that overall contract will recompeted. So per the strategy, there is a fair bit of work ahead for us, as well as our colleagues at Coast Guard or elsewhere, that will look at the smaller vessels and the maintenance in a competitive environment.
And when it comes to the Naval Large Tugs contract, who will be able to bid on that? Is that limited to Canadian shipyards, or could that be built abroad? And that would be a concern of mine if we're talking about going outside the country. So
right now, the intention is to follow the Canadian shipbuilding policy, There was some discussion at some point about, I think, again, kind of capabilities, which is to make sure that as we did the option analysis, we considered it all. We landed on building the next generation of tugs, and per the policy, we're pursuing a Build in Canada approach.
Great, thanks. I think there was a little bit of confusion introduced earlier about the difference between supply ships and the interim ship that we have. And so maybe if I could just get someone to talk about, so we're all around the table clear that these are different ships and they have different capabilities, and that we're filling the gap with one ship that isn't necessarily the same as the ships we're building. Can I just get some comment on that?
I'll start and then ask both the Vice and ADM Matt to jump in. The Joint Supply Ship is a project that has been on the books for the Royal Canadian Navy for several years and is part of the National Shipbuilding Strategy. 2 vessels, both warships, built to warship standard as opposed to commercial standard. When the Preserver, HMCS Preserver and Protector, had to come out of service unexpectedly, one due to a fire, one due to difficulties with corrosion, the Navy was left without capacity. The interim AOR was one of the measures to mitigate that capacity gap. Others were smart scheduling and other things that the minister spoke to earlier. The interim AOR is a refitted, refurbished commercial vessel that will be able to fulfill some of the capacity needs for the Royal Canadian Navy in the short term. But they're very different vessels for very different purposes. The interim AOR, absolutely appreciated, but it fills a short-term capacity gap.
I would just add, again, Joint Support Ship is the name of the project. They are much broader, but as the deputy said, principally they are a warship. They are designed, have survivability, different things to do, and it is ships we're bringing into service for at least 30 years. If you look at the 2 that have been replaced, they were in service almost 45 after different upgrades. The interim contract is 5 years plus options. It's very different. It is more in the short term. I think a very impressive capability we're seeing coming online early next year that will serve the Navy from what we see well as it comes together. But it really is bringing those support ships into the task group, and the way our Navy operates as a task group, that support ship carries a significant amount of the aircraft and other things into harm's way with the task group.
That's exactly what I thought we needed to hear. And of course, I remain a very firm supporter of the National Shipbuilding Strategy, and especially to get the supply ships built in a timely manner. So thanks.
Given the time we have available, we have enough time to go around the track one more time with 5-minute questions. And having said that, we'll go Liberal, Conservative, NDP, assuming members still want questions. I know the Liberals do. We'll start with Mr. Spangeman for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I have a brief question to Ms. Thomas and to Lieutenant General Parent, and I'm hoping to share the rest of my time with Ms. Romanado. My question is about the Canadian Armed Forces as an employer in 2017 for men, women, and Canadians of minority gender identity and expression. We've got voted appropriations of $333 million for a pay increase. We had the announcement yesterday, the apology by the Prime Minister to the LGBTQ2 community. Where do you see the Canadian Forces, not just as an economic opportunity for Canadians, but also as an inclusive workforce that reflects our current diversity? And how can you each apply your personal leadership to make sure that we do even better?
Thank you very much for the question. I'll start and then ask the Vice to jump in. I think that speaking for the civilian workforce and in discussions I've had with General Vance, we see ourselves as perhaps one of the most progressive workforces in government. If you look at the steps that have been taken within the Department of National Defence for encouragement of inclusivity, diversity, the aggressive stance taken with Operation Honor to ensure that our employees and CAF members feel safe in the workplace, that we stop sexualized behavior. If you look just at this table, there are 3 deputy heads in the Department of National Defence under Minister Sajjan's leadership. 2 of the 3, myself and Greta Bossenmeyer, are women. It says something about who we are as an organization and the values we believe in. The recruiting targets for civilians are absolutely to reflect Canada. And so we're responsible for that as the civilian employers, and that's what we're looking for, is to ensure that we reflect Canada.
Well, we're in the business of people, and no matter if you're race, religion, sexual orientation, we're all people, and we want to attract the best of Canadians, and the best of the best are amongst all of the different diversity that is offered to us. Also, as a fighting force, we have to be representative of the diaspora of what Canada is, and therefore there is absolutely no issue in the Canadian Armed Forces leadership to be fully inclusive and embrace diversity.
Thank you so much, both of you. Mr. Renaud.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup d'être ici aujourd'hui.
Thank you for being here today.
About the MFRCs from my colleague from Kingston, and I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on what we're doing to close the seam between active military service members and veterans. And the reason I'm asking that, we've seen some demonstrated efforts in terms of opening up MFRC access to veterans and their families after post-career, as well as the Joint Suicide Prevention Strategy, where we see that both Ministers of Veteran Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence and the Minister of National Defence working lockstep to close that seam. And I know that that is an item in both ministers' mandate letters about that transition group that we were announcing in the DPR. So if you could elaborate a little bit on those initiatives that we're doing to make sure that we're working lockstep to support Canadian Armed Forces members, whether active or inactive service, and the families that support them along the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. This is a subject that is extraordinarily important to everybody in the department. Bill Matthews, who's the new Senior Associate Deputy Minister, you met him here a few weeks ago. He has now been assigned the task of working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, supporting the Associate Minister of Defence, Minister O'Regan, in that closing the seam work. General Lamar, who I'll ask to speak in a second, he is leading the work for the Canadian Armed Forces and the department. That enrollment to grave perspective on a career is the only way that we are moving forward. It is absolutely critical to the health of the Canadian Armed Forces and our veterans community, and it is the focus of everything that we're doing. But I'll ask General Lamar to give you some very specific answers.
Thank you, ma'am. We're really looking at that journey from start to finish, and that's how we're referring to it, the journey, the cheminement. And it's from the moment that you get attracted to come in, to start to click on the website, all the way through to the time that you transition out of the Canadian Armed Forces, when you decide to leave, when your service is done. At that time, we want to make sure that not only you, but your family is also supported. And to that end, it's a question of making sure that every experience is kind of well tailored for the individual that goes there. That includes a number of things that are quite different. Dealing with the member first and foremost, giving certainty on the courses and the training that's coming up, making sure that as they transition from one posting to another, that they're well supported in doing that posting. And that's where the family really starts to get brought into that piece. We are looking at right now establishing the transition group that will grow out of current organizations on how we move people across, but will increase and really make it a better transition. That includes making sure that some of the things that in the past used to hamper you when you move between provinces are limiting. We're looking to work with the provinces to make that easy also. Currently, even how a person moves is being made better by virtue of them having access to counselors at the other end as well, to make sure you can find out about the schools that you're going to, find out about what kind of employment is there. And we're working with third parties as well to make sure that spouses who are looking to transfer across will have access to job searching capabilities and service and support while they do the transition across. This also looks at examining how it is that children who might have special needs and everything like that, once an assessment is done in one province, we're looking to work with the provinces to make sure that that assessment is also valid in the next one. So it's a broad range of things that concentrate on the member, but also concentrate on his or her family to make sure that their experience throughout their career is well-rounded.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Klont.
Chairman, and my questions will be for the Chief of the Communications Security Establishment. First of all, do you see any money earmarked here for training of people in the CSE, specifically for cybersecurity?
The money that's being requested here is, again, to ensure that we can maintain our capabilities in safeguarding Government of Canada systems and the important information they contain. And that money will be used to ensure that we have the right people, the right skills, the right technology, the right tools in play. So in terms of is there specific money toward training, something that we have to do with our staff, given that we focus on the very leading edge of cybersecurity, is always have very robust and again leading edge training for our cybersecurity experts.
Okay, so is CSC partnering with the private sector to harden its cybersecurity?
I would say partnership across cybersecurity is key. We often say that cybersecurity is a team sport. It's impossible for any one organization to be able to know it all or do it all yourself, given that it's such a dynamic environment. So we definitely provide advice and guidance that is applicable to private industry, applicable to critical infrastructure. We definitely have conversations with private industry in the sense of how, are there best practices that one can leverage and learn from one another? And we definitely partner across the Government of Canada, or to the earlier question, with departments and agencies that are also focusing on ensuring their systems are safe and sound.
In addition to providing guidance, guidance is taken from the commercial establishment, the financial establishment, things they learn are being given to CSE as well?
We work in partnership. For example, we've recently released a new tool, probably a first for CSE. We've released one of our very sophisticated tools called Assembly Line, and we've put it out there, out to the public and to private industry to say this is a tool that we've developed that's actually being used to help safeguard Government of Canada systems. And with this tool, they too now can use this tool to help better look for malware that might be out in their systems. That's an example of that kind of partnership and sharing. We're saying by putting this tool out, they may be also able to find ways to enhance and use the tool that would be beneficial to even a broader group.
Okay, so have you held tabletop exercises with the different departments and in concert with the private sector?
So I'm going to go back to my earlier comment in terms of Minister Goodale, but in particular the Department of Public Safety, who has a role right now to interact in terms of emergency management and broader national security. And they definitely run exercises across a variety of sectors, with cybersecurity often being one of the fields.
So is the CSE, or maybe you could describe the efforts that it's taking to ensure that qualified DND personnel medically releasing soldiers are aware of opportunities and employment with the CSE. Many of them already have the security clearances and they have specialized skills. Are there actual efforts going forth to capture some of the people who may be interested in continuing on through a position in the CSE?
So we have actually a very long and robust history working with the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces. Many ex-service people are actually employed by the Communications Security Establishment. And right now, we always are looking for the best and the brightest that we can find to work in this very challenging field. We have broad recruitment efforts underway as we speak that are reaching out to new hires from new recruits, new people graduating from university, all the way up to people that are mid-career and to people that are leaving the service and are interested in joining the organization.
So in the Defense Review, they're talking about standing up a cyber command. So CSE would work even more conjoined with CSIS and some sort of cyber command. Can you describe how that organization would fit together? And would you be in the same place? Or would you be remotely communicating with one another?
I'm not sure when you talk about standing up a new place. Again, we already work in concert across the Government of Canada in partnership with departments and agencies, and of course in concert with the Canadian Armed Forces. They are looking to set up a new cyber operator. Maybe I'll turn it over to my military counterparts to speak about that.
So we're not looking at building a new cyber command. What we are looking at doing is expanding our capabilities in the cyber realm and developing our forces and expertise. So we also are growing in the policy from being purely defensive to the ability to conduct active cyber operations, including an offensive cyber capability. So in order to do that, we're creating a new cyber operator occupation in the military to attract new talent and increase resources dedicated to cyber operations. So the capability of cyber is going to rest within the existing command of Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Canadian Joint Operations Command, not a new cyber command.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Garrison, last question.
Thanks very much. I just thinking back, I should have asked one more question to Mr. Finn about the large tugs. Is there something you can say publicly about either the time frame for that and the magnitude of the contract? So when might be completed, and are we talking $1 million contract or a $1 zillion contract? Not trying to get you to reveal anything more than that.
Thank you for the question. Timeline, it is in what we'd call definition now, so it's been, I'll say, formally launched by government. We're doing that. We have gone out to industry, so we've started industry days to kind of pull into information to look at costs there. We hope to, I would say, within the next year, have the request for proposal on the street to go out and seek the proposals. I apologize. I have the information. I can't remember the quantum of the budget. It is not in the billions, but it is not trivial. These are, again, very sophisticated tugs that will replace all of our fleet of tugs as well as our current fireboats, which you would be familiar with. So it's a substantial, complex bid. We are looking for mature designs that, again, we could bring and build in Canada.
Great. Thanks very much. At the time that you folks were here, some of you are different now, but your positions were represented at the estimates. I asked some questions about both recruitment in rural and First Nations communities and funding for reserves and cadets. And we were assured there was enough money in the budget this year to make progress in all those areas. So I wonder if I can just ask maybe briefly, I'm not looking for anything in detail, but how are we doing on the recruitment in First Nations, rural and remote communities and the funding for reserves and cadet programs?
We're going to ask General Lamar to respond to your question.
Thank you very much. The whole idea of how we're going to be recruiting visible minorities, Aboriginal, and also women, we were talking about earlier on, has targets assigned to it. So if we just look at how the women are looking at right now, we can give examples of concrete increases in it. 25% of the first-year cadets at RMC this year are women.
We asked about First Nations.
Roger, so we're coming to that one as well. One of the things we're doing is we're actually measuring within each of our recruiting initiatives which ones give us the more money for the buck. We're finding that some of the initiatives we've done, so we're doing analysis of that problem, are getting low rates of return on it. However, some of the initiatives we're doing where we bring Aboriginal youth from Northern Canada and everything else into places like Calgary, and we get them through and actually give them a bespoke care when they come through the recruiting center, is paying off great dividends. So that is the attempt that we're doing to do that, and also measuring the programs that we've got underway right now to figure out if they're effective or not, and then change those to do it. There was great work that was done by the Army this summer when they ran their Bold Eagle program. They looked specifically to find out where it is that we want to prioritize where the candidates came from. And from there, they're analyzing that next year. They're going to put more emphasis on remote locations that actually have access to then units that actually operate. So small detachments of the reserve that might be in places like Battleford or might be in places like Regina, those ones are going to be identified, and then the population surrounding them to be able to attract them, so those young people, after doing a program such as Bold Eagle, will have the opportunity then to join a reserve unit and go and work there. That's on the reserve front. And on the regular force as well, we're specifically setting up the campaigns to go and attract the youth to do that.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. If you could just bear with us for a quick second for some administrative work, I'll ask the committee to vote on the supplementary estimates B, and I'll call for a vote in a second. Shall vote 1B under Communications Security Establishment. Shall vote 1B under Department of National Defence. Shall vote 5B under Department of National Defence. Shall vote 1B under Military Grievances External Review Committee. Carry by show of hands. It's carried. Carried on division?
Yep.
Okay. Shall the chair report the supplementary estimates be in the House? Yes. I want to thank you all very much for coming today and all your hard work in ensuring that our military has the training, equipment, care, and leadership that it needs to do its job. This committee is very grateful for you and all your work, and so are Canadians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.